I decided to not put music in these videos anymore because YouTube doesn't really like that. So up until the 54-second mark, you could go ahead and put on iTunes, or maybe I'll just do a commentary. How's that? Alright, so here I am putting the beams in. I had a fun time cutting them with the saw. Here's me putting the light switches in and putting the rim boards on the edges of the top of the walls where the second story floor ends. And yeah, so I guess you could just watch for yourself and not have to hear my voice. I'll be talking again in about 10 seconds. Alright, so this is going to be a bit longer of a video because it's the last one before I put the ceiling on. So I'll just show you everything that went on. And as you can tell, if you watch the last video, it looks a lot different. But I just tipped the house over and dumped it out, and this was what was on the floor. So that's all pieces of glue, sawdust, random stuff. That's pretty interesting. So I got the light switches done. I did make a tutorial on how I did those. I'll make a full electrical tutorial, but I have to finish up with the electrical before I could film how to do the rest. So they're all in there. There's 7 light switches on the main floor. And then I also did the rim boards, which in real construction you would do the rim boards after the joists, but I'm able to do them before the joists in this model, so that just makes it easier. And I also marked where the joists are, every inch. Coming around here, this wall was bowing out in the middle. For the most part I fixed it. But it doesn't really matter because if you look at the plans, this is going to be 2 stories and this will just be a little roof here. This will just be 1 story. So it doesn't need to be perfectly straight. I say it's good enough. And then with the rim boards, there's going to be another wall on top of here. There won't be a floor here. So what I did with the rim boards is I did one on the outside and one on the inside, and then I put a flat stick on top. So that gives us the thickness of the floor. And you don't just put rim boards around the perimeter, you do that anywhere where you're going from a second story to an open area where there's no floor. So like for example, this is the stairs, which I'll show you in a second, and I put a rim board there because there won't be a floor here, but there will be a floor here. And so those are the stairs. They came out alright. They're a little bit sloppy, but they're pretty good, I guess. I don't know. And then I put a few beams here. The beams that are sitting on top of the walls will be within the floor. You won't be able to see them like this one, so it'll just look like the floor ends. There's a beam here. This big one will hang down beneath the ceiling, and it kind of just gives it, kind of separates this dining room off from the rest. I was going to put walls around the dining room with big entryways, but I thought this would be easier. And it's actually a beam with 4 sticks wide, and then there's there's one on either side for just to make it look nicer. So it's really a 6-stick width beam, so it's really strong. It's not going to bend or anything. And then it sits on this column. And look at that nice 45-degree cut I could get with the saw. I love that saw. This is one of the pieces I cut off. So that thing is just awesome for things like that. So that's the dining room. Right here I did the same thing I did in the family room. I kind of just extended. I just put a rim board on either side and then a piece on top, and then the wall will go on top of that. And it looks like that window's not centered, but from the outside it is centered. But because this wall is here, it makes it look not centered. I'm worried about how it looks on the outside rather than the inside. This will be just a flat wall going across, and there will be kind of a ledge here because this is a 2-story foyer. The only thing I'm really not happy about is the way that came out. It kind of curves over to the right. It's not a huge deal because this is all going to be a porch right here, so this will be underneath the porch. So it's really not a huge deal as long as the top of the second story walls are fairly straight. And you can kind of see the perimeter of the 2-story foyer. This beam will be within the ceiling. So will this one in the family room. Won't be supporting any weight, except for right here a little tiny bit. And I really like the way those came out. Nice and straight with the wall. Nice and level with a lot of the, like everything else, all the rim boards. And if you look at it, it lines up pretty much parallel with the lines I drew, almost, on that one. And that one lines up almost perfectly. So it's right where it needs to be. The light switches got kind of crazy because there's one here and there's one on the other side, so I didn't want to get the wires mixed up, so that's why they're like that. I wasn't going to put a beam here. In that original house plan that I changed, there was a beam here, and I didn't want there to be. But then I realized, I was thinking about it, and this is a really long span just to build out of popsicle sticks, and it's kind of weak, so I put a little extra support here, and it should be good. So, give you a little last walk through. There's a foyer, 2-story foyer, a study with 2 windows in it, and then you continue down the hallway. There's a little bathroom to the side, big dining room right there. Come down the hallway more, there's the stairs to go upstairs, obviously. The end of the hallway, there's a mudroom, door out to the porch, and at the end of the hallway you go to the sunroom, where there's a bunch of windows. And then from in here you go to the kitchen, which you could also go that way. And pretty plain. This is, I call the breakfast area, just a little area with a table in the kitchen. And then the 2-story family room. And that is it. And the garage, of course. I'm happy with the way the garage came out. At the beginning I said I was worried that it was so big the garage wasn't going to be strong enough to not like fall off the house, but you lift it up and everything holds together very nicely. Like if I lift up from right here, the whole house lifts up and it doesn't bend or anything. Well, it bends a little bit, but overall it's strong. And when I put these joists on in 5 minutes, it's really going to make it a lot stronger. And speaking of that, I ran them over with the chair. Crap. These are the joists that I made. This is a pain. So they're all, I have it very organized. I did the same I did the last house. I'll show you. Here's my drawing for the electrical. It should be on my Facebook page. I have all the plans on there. Here's how I organized them. Each room has its own letter, or each area. So let's just use the front room. The study is B. So this is room B. The joists on this side of the house are the lower numbers, and the joists on this side are the higher numbers. So this mark right here is joist B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, and then there's none here, and then it goes into whatever number that, or whatever letter, that's the D, so it starts off at D1, D2. So I know which is which. And then I write that on each stick, and the side of the stick I write that on is the front of the house. And then on here I drew out where all the wires are going to go, and I looked at each joist and I said, okay, so B1, 2, and 3 don't need any cuts, but B4 needs a cut right here, so I put a hole in there, and then some of them had multiple. So if you look at them, they're all cut to length, and they all have the holes drilled in them. So the ones I was just showing you, the B ones, are right here. B1, 2, 3 don't need a cut, and then these ones have a cut in the middle. These ones that have a lot of cuts, that does make them a lot weaker, but those are small ones. That's actually for this little hallway right here. So it's not a huge deal. It's still strong enough. Because that's kind of, all the electrical is going to join up right here. This is all going to be attic above this, and so the wires just kind of come out here, and then, you know, so this is like the main like passageway, I guess. So, and then all these huge ones here are for the garage. I think there's 17 of these ones that are for, I didn't cut these to length because I need to make sure this wall is straight, and this wall is straight as I'm going. So if I cut them to length now, this wall might be pushing out a little bit or something. So I'll just cut them as I go. Those ones don't need holes in them because there's going to be an attic above. There won't be a floor above, so the wires don't need to go through the joists. So it makes it a lot easier for me. Same with the upstairs. When I do the ceiling on the upstairs, I won't need to cut any holes. So that is it. I'm ready to put the joists on. That's the funnest part because you're putting a whole nother story on, and it's easy and it's quick. So I'm going to do that, and then the next video should be ready today actually. So that is it, and I'll give you a last look at it. I didn't mention this. This will be removed. That's just, I said this part of the wall was bowing out, and so to make it not bow out as much, I pushed it in really hard, and then I glued this here, and this wall is still straight, and it just kind of pulled the walls together and fixed that. And then once I get the joists on, I could remove that. So I'll walk around to the front, and that's it. So I'll see you in the next video, I guess.